Welcome to the Town of Garner Town Council meeting for November the 19th. It's a beautiful day in Garner. We have a great agenda tonight. We have special guests. We have proclamations. You just won't believe all the good stuff we have going on tonight. I'm glad you came. We'll start out by asking our town clerk to call the roll, please. Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Vance.
Here.
Councilmember Behringer.
Here.
Councilmember Matthews.
Here.
Councilmember Dellinger.
Here.
And Councilmember Singleton.
Okay. Yes, Councilman Singleton is absent tonight. He called in. Is there a motion to make this an excused absence?
So moved. Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor of making this an excused absence, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed by nay. Passes unanimously. Thank you. And we also get to kick off tonight with a special guest who's going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Benjamin, if you would come up to the podium here. Benjamin Sanders is a Boy Scout in Troop 391, the very same troop that I was a member of when I was about his age at Garner Methodist Church. We're glad to have him here tonight. If you would stand up, please. Benjamin's going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. He thought he was just coming to observe tonight. He got pressed into service.
You done put him to work.
There you go. Thank you very much. It's my turn to do the invocation, and sometimes I like to give you the thought for the day or an uplifting idea. And I didn't know what it was going to be until about an hour and a half ago. I had the pleasure of being in Clayton for a special recognition of one of my good friends and one of your good friends, if you've been around Garner very long, Lee Hudson. He had gotten a recognition from the Clayton City Council yesterday for years of service, Rotary and business leaders and 100 other things. And today they dedicated a flagpole at the community center in his name with a plaque. Just one of the things that he had done, and I'd kind of forgotten about, he started the Memorial Day flag event down there, the Rotary Club, and they were thinking about doing it. And somebody said, well, maybe we can get as many as 200 flags sponsored. And Lee said, 200, let's go for 500. And they made 500, and then the next year they did 1,100. Just turned into a huge, huge event. And I got my little pen. They were giving away little American flag pins to recognize Lee. He was my neighbor for 30 years. He is the epitome of a good neighbor, a good businessman, a good citizen. And when I had a chance at the end to jump up and say something, I said, well, why didn't you do all this in Garner? You know, we could have used all that energy right up here. But he lived halfway between here and there, and as he opened his Hudson's Hardware in Clayton, he moved down, his focus down that way. But one of the most telling things that was mentioned about him today, his grandson, who's now running Hudson Hardware, said, Lee stepped into my life by marrying my grandmother years and years ago, and he became the grandfather that I never had. And he didn't have to be my grandfather. I wasn't born to be his grandson, but he stepped up. So that's pretty strong stuff. Of all the things that Lee's ever done, he did a lot of great things, and he's still doing them. So an inspiration to be a good citizen. We're small fishes in small ponds, but man, swim all you can, give all you can. So that was inspirational. And now we get to move along to petitions and comments, and I already know that somebody has signed up. So that means I get to read our little introduction, and then at this particular time, I'm going to call on the speaker. And this portion of the meeting is to receive comments from the public on items that are not included in this agenda regarding matters germane to town policies or business or subjects within the town council's real or apparent jurisdiction. Individuals or group spokespersons must sign up with the town clerk prior to the start of the meeting. The council is interested in hearing your concerns, but will not take action or deliberate on subject matter brought up during this session. Topics requiring further investigation will be referred to the appropriate town officials or staff and may be scheduled for a future agenda. And with that, I would like to call one of my new friends, Kathy Johnson, to come up to the podium. And she is the Executive Director of Oak City Cares, and she's going to tell you something about it. But I can tell you that Kathy was kind enough to take Elmo and I on a tour just a couple of weeks ago of her facility, and it was mind-boggling, the services that they can bring, the way they've coordinated a couple of dozen different organizations to provide the unique service that we had. And with Kathy, I'll turn it over to you with a 3-minute limit.
Got it. Thank you so much. Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity just to take a few minutes to briefly comment this evening. As was said, I'm Kathy Johnson. I'm the Executive Director of Oak City Cares. Oak City Cares is a nonprofit community multi-services center that's just around the corner from here on South Wilmington Street. We were honored to have the visit, so thank you for coming. And we are designed to serve our neighbors in Wake County who are both experiencing homelessness and or food insecurity. So particularly tonight, I just wanted to come. As you may know, this week is actually National Hunger and Homelessness Awareness Week. So in honor of that, wanted just to come and really say thank you for all the efforts that are happening now in the town of Garner. This week, people across the country are taking time to come together and to bring attention to the problems of both hunger and homelessness. Finding solutions, recommitting ourselves to finding solutions to ending both hunger and homelessness in our communities all across the country. So I would first just really like to say thank you and express my immense gratitude for many Garner organizations, including Community of Hope and the Garner Area Ministries, Hope Ministries, and many other citizens who have really worked hard to offer support and services to our neighbors in need in our community. I'd especially like to thank those in our community who are supporting initiatives like the Bringing Neighbors Home Project. That's a project that is currently housing families, including several who have been Garner residents before falling into their episodes of homelessness. I'm really hopeful about all the ways that our community can work together to support our neighbors who are experiencing homelessness, really with a particular focus on those who are experiencing homelessness for the first time. And many of you may know that the largest group of individuals experiencing homelessness for the first time, are males who are age 55 and older. So again, really just here to say thank you to the town of Garner, also to the Affordable Housing Task Force for all the work that you all are doing to focus on and address affordable housing and homelessness in our community. So thank you.
And thank you for all you do and all your team. We've met a number of our team members. Some of them were graduates of their program and some were volunteers, and it's just unbelievable the stuff that they deliver. I'll ask our town attorney, do we have anyone else signed up to speak?
No, Mr. Mayor, we do not.
Okay, thank you. At this point, we will ask for adoption of the agenda. Some of you got a copy of it. The council members have seen it. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Mr. Matthews, second by Mr. Vance. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed by nay. Hearing none, passes unanimously. And we move along to a great presentation here about, and I'm just going to turn it all over to Jody Miller, our town manager, to tell us what it's about and why we're very excited.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening, members of council. It's my pleasure to introduce to you this evening the town's new Human Resources Director, Karen Harris. Ms. Harris has over 25 years of experience leading the human services function within government and higher education, and has served in an executive leadership role since joining the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services in 2019. At DHHS, Ms. Harris led a team of 200 human resources professionals who were responsible for supporting over 1,800 employees in the areas of employee relations and engagement, talent acquisition, employee and leadership training and development, classification and compensation, benefits and wellness, and safety. Prior to her tenure with DHHS, Ms. Harris worked for the District of Columbia government where her focus was developing strategic HR initiatives within the areas of recruitment and retention, performance management, and employee engagement. Ms. Harris is a certified professional within the Society of Human Resources Management. She also has a Master's of Public Administration with honors and a Bachelor of Arts from North Carolina Central University. And so we are just thrilled to welcome Ms. Harris as our new HR Director. So I'm going to ask her to come to the podium and say a few remarks for council this evening.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. Just want to thank you all for the opportunity to join this awesome team in the town of Garner. It's been an exciting week. Today marks 1 week that I've been here with the town and everyone. It's been just wonderful. And I am looking forward to working with everybody as we push forward to ensuring that the town of Garner becomes the employer of choice.
We're glad to have you aboard, and I'll ask if council members have any other questions or comments you'd like to make.
I'd like to say welcome to you, Ms. Harris.
Thank you.
Yeah, welcome to the team, welcome to the town, and enjoy your time.
Thank you.
Yes, we are happy to have you here.
Excited to be here.
Welcome to the family.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is a key function. One of our greatest strengths here in town is our employee, our staff, our workforce. And we're talking to the head of HR who helps us find these people, train these people, and help them be all they can be here for the town of Garner. So thank you for all that you've done already and with the positive attitude that you bring coming in. Thank you.
Thank you.
And now we have a proclamation, and was Mr. Triesenberg gonna be doing this, or you want me to jump right in? Okay, his name was on here. It's about GIS Day, and if you don't know what GIS is, I'm gonna go ahead and tell you right now. It's Geographic Information Systems. These are these satellites that power your Google Earth, your iMaps, all of the things that we use. We saw an example recently as the fire department had done a big survey about where should their stations, future stations and rebuilt stations be to maximize their efficiency and their call responsiveness. And they had a huge amount of GIS information to help them make those decisions. And I think we have our top GIS guy here tonight, Mr. Bones, Alex. If you would at least stand over there, you don't have to talk, but I'm going to read the proclamation, and I'm going to bring it over there, and then you can speak if you'd like to, and fill in all the blanks that I left out on GIS. I might have even mispronounced it.
All right, sounds good.
Okay. Well, we have the GIS Day proclamation, and it says, whereas the town of Garner recognizes that an understanding, use, and application of geospatial technology is crucial to operating our infrastructure, sustaining our natural resources, and stimulating economic growth, thus benefiting welfare of the general public throughout Garner. And Geographic Information Systems, GIS, technology allows us to see and model complex relationships and patterns to more intelligently respond. And there is a need to promote GIS awareness, education, and technical training to use this rapidly developing technology to its full potential. And the town of Garner acknowledges those that have chosen GIS as their profession or as part of their discipline to improve the lives of our citizens, and to recognize and support the efforts of nonprofits who work on activities to improve conservation, human services, and various humanitarian efforts to better our world. And whereas the town of Garner is committed to utilizing GIS to inform decision-making and better serve its residents and make useful geographic information open and easily available to the public as a platform for innovation. Now, therefore, I, Buddy Gupton, Mayor of the town of Garner, do hereby proclaim November 21st, 2024 as GIS Day in the town of Garner in conjunction with the celebration of National GIS Day and Raleigh GIS Day, and now it's Garner GIS Day. So we want to thank you for what you do, and we have a photo op as you get to receive the proclamation. And you can also add any comments or straighten me out on anything that I didn't cover on GIS.
Thank you. Good evening. Let me introduce myself. My name is Alex Bone. I'm the GIS analyst for the Town of Garner Planning Department. And to give you some more background, GIS Day is celebrated annually every year. This year, we will be celebrating with the City of Raleigh. We will be hosting a table at City of Raleigh's GIS Day Thursday morning at the Amtrak station downtown Raleigh. It's a free and public event with various other local government agencies, including state agencies as well.
Thank you. There's a lot to it. Maybe you can help me understand Google Maps.
Sure, anytime.
Rick, we have a photo op? If I have my GIS, I could find it. Where we're going, we're going to have to get a map here. Thank you, sir. Thanks for all you do. Thank you so much. I told you we had some big people to introduce, some big GIS proclamations to make. And now we move along to part number 3, and we have a report from our Affordable Housing Task Force. This is a progress update. I was asking today, we're about halfway through. It's more like two-thirds of the way through with the designated time. And our presenter is our town manager, Ms. Jody Miller.
Thank you, Mayor. Before we begin, I'd like to turn it over to the chairperson of the Affordable Housing Task Force, Mr. Vance, for a few words.
Thank you, Ms. Miller. Good evening to everyone. I'm Elmo Vance, and I am the chairperson for the Affordable Housing Task Force, which was established roughly in June and been working very hard since, starting in September. We have a number of the task force residents of Garner who are part of the team who are here tonight, who I would like to recognize. Mr. Jeffrey Swain, Ms. Katie Cardenas, and Mr. Ralph Carlson. They've all been working hard in this endeavor, and we appreciate the work of the town staff, to include the town managers, assistant manager, town managers, attorney, and the planning staff, and all who have been involved with this endeavor. We realize it's a huge one, and without being redundant, we will move right into the presentation. Back to Ms. Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Vance. All right, so this evening, the Affordable Housing Task Force wanted to provide council with an update as to where we are within our process and to remind you about the deliverables that we promised to give you at the early part of January 2025. So as you recall, the Affordable Housing Task Force was appointed by council in June of 2024. As the mayor mentioned, as the Mayor Pro Tem mentioned, members included residents, town staff, and housing stakeholders and advocates. And the charge of the task force was to create a roadmap for expanding and maintaining affordable housing opportunities based on data analysis, current economic conditions, and community feedback. As part of this effort, we also added some additional resources to our website to make sure that residents really understood and knew about all the housing resources and opportunities. This was something that we lacked up until a few months ago. And as we were thinking about affordable housing and housing resources, one of the first things we recognized was the need to make sure that information about current services were available. So our affordable housing goals framework includes the following. And from the task force standpoint, we've had a lot of discussion on what can we do in the time period from, say, August to January 2025 that really provides good information to council to help make informed decisions regarding affordable housing. And so here are some of the things that we came up with as a way to help us think about our work, not only the short term, but also the long term. So some of the immediate goals that we've been working on include establishing common definitions, establishing priorities and deliverables, and looking at other peer communities for best practices. Those immediate goals really focused on August to September timeframe. For the short-term goals, and this is the work that we are still working on now, that was October to December, looking at recommending affordable housing goals and metrics for the town, looking at providing information and a recommendation on the role the town should play in affordable housing both locally and regionally, recommend policies to help inform development, and evaluate funding strategies and partnerships. And so that's some of the work that we've been doing over the last few months. Looking beyond the end of the calendar year 2024 into January 2025 and beyond, some of the longer term goals that we've identified focus on refining and implementing the metrics that are proposed, looking to maintain and preserve existing affordable housing, and implement funding strategies and partnerships. And what this framework really shares with us is that affordable housing is not a one-time issue. It's not something that we're going to be able to solve the issue or make significant progress on within a 6-month time frame. But we've got to start someplace in terms of what is our common understandings, what are our agreed upon goals and metrics, and what are some of the areas where we feel like we can provide specific guidance to our development community about our expectations as a town for affordable housing. Part of the work that the task force has completed over the last few months is really learning more and understanding about issues of affordable housing in our region and with some of our partners in Wake County. And so we've had several what we call partner presentations that have come in and that have presented to the task force. They provided information on their services and programs, as well as shared their data with us to help better inform our discussions and our recommendations. So our partner presentations to date have included Wake County, the town of Apex, Rebuilding Together of the Triangle, and Habitat for Humanity. So as I mentioned, when the task force was formed, Council asked the task force to come back in January with some very specific deliverables to help us in this, what we're calling the immediate goals area. And so here are the things that we are working on and still discussing, and we'll be providing recommendations to Council with at your January work session. So first is agreed upon terminologies and definitions. And this is something that we've quickly learned, is that there's lots of definitions around affordable housing and understanding and metrics. And we want to make sure that we're using the same language when we talk about affordable housing, our goals with affordable housing, and how we prioritize that. Also to provide clear guidance and expectations to the development community. And this is a conversation that Council has been having for a number of months now, as there are opportunities to look at bringing new residential into the town. And we have a development community who's interested in supporting the town's priority of affordable housing. What information can we provide to them as far as clear expectations for what they can consider doing to support the town's priorities and goals? The third item looks at identifying affordable housing best practices. We have quite the extensive database of best practices information that Mr. Dallinger and Ms. DeCarnitas have put together. It's quite the envy of any other community in the region, I would say. But it really helps us better understand what our neighbors are doing and some of the successes they've had, but also some of the challenges. And as I mentioned, affordable housing is not just a short-term goal, it's a long-term goal. And it's really important for us to understand what are some of the programs and strategies that some of our partners and neighbors have been working on longer term as well, because there may be opportunities for partnerships in the longer term. And the last area is to recommend target goals and measures. We only understand if we're successful by setting metrics and setting goals. And so as part of the recommendations that'll be coming out of the task force, we'll be proposing some targets and some measures for those things for us as a town and as a community to use as the foundation for measuring our success moving forward. So to give you a sense of the work that we've done, we've had several subcommittees that have been working on these projects to make sure that we have our recommendations provided to you by January. So in September, we talked about recommendations regarding definitions, and our subcommittee that's been working on that provided some information there. And at our October meeting, best practice information was shared, and that was provided also by that subcommittee that's been working on that. Also at our meeting in October, we had recommendations on affordable housing goals and metrics, so we started having those conversations, and we'll be having additional conversations on that topic at our November meeting. At our November meeting, we'll also be talking about and working on the guidance for the development community. One of the things we've talked about is providing them clear guidance on town expectations, and so we'll be talking about that and coming up with some recommendations to share with council in January. In December, we'll be taking all this information and all the work and discussions that we've put together and start working on our draft report back to council, which we'll continue to work on until the early part of 2025. That will then come to council as a final report out and recommendation at your January 2025 work session. So that is it for the presentation this evening, to give you an overview of our process to date. I'm happy to answer any questions that council members may have, but we also have several members of the task force here that can answer any questions.
Okay, thank you very much. We will get some comments and or suggestions from council members. I might call on Councilman Vance again, the chair of this, if you got anything you'd like to add or any observations about the task force so far.
I would just say that it's a monumental task, and we have, I believe, with the residents and the team we have working with us, putting a Herculean effort to get this done and providing us with quality products so that we can be able to make the right decisions when it comes to affordable housing as it relates to Garner. And I'd like Mr. Councilman Dillinger give him an opportunity to say something. He's been working diligently as well, a part of the task force, and I'd like to give him an opportunity to say something.
Thank you, Mr. Vance. I'd just say that I'd like to thank the whole committee. It's really kind of been a lesson in go, and kind of demonstrates once we make a decision, we want to do something, how quickly we can move to get it done. I want to give a personal thank you and recognition for Katie Cardenas out there, who's worked with me on looking at these best practices. I like to move fast, but man, she likes to move twice as fast as I do. But we were able to work together and really look at 24 different municipalities and counties in the state, and looking at what, not just best practices, but worst practices. And because of that, we're not trying to reinvent the wheel with the committee. We're trying to find the right wheels for Garner. And so I want to thank her for her efforts in that. And even based on our research, the speed at which we're operating and getting from June to January with even having recommendations is exceptional in comparison to a lot of other communities. So everybody's working very hard. So there's a lot of gratitude to the members of that committee.
Thank you. Thank you. Ms. Behringer, comments?
Yeah, I would just like to say I am truly grateful to see this report, to see the work that's being done. I have been asking for over 15 years what we're doing about affordable housing, and I didn't get many answers until recently, and I just appreciate the hard work. It also proves that you don't quit even if you're not getting the answers you want to hear. So thank you to all of you for all your hard work, and we'll look forward to even more reports and more direction about where we're going to go.
Thank you. Mr. Matthews?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I want to thank the committee for the report. It's a tough job, and every town in Wake County in North Carolina has got the same issues trying to figure this thing out. And I think it was, as Mr. Dillinger mentioned, it was a very good point to reach out to some other towns and see what worked, what didn't work, so we don't reinvent the wheel and try to come up with a plan. And it's not going to be an overnight plan, but at least we are organized as we're trying to come up with a way to make this thing happen, and we'll take it a step at a time. I appreciate all the hard work and effort that's gone into it.
Excellent. Well, I would say again, my hat's off to the two co-chairs, Ms. Miller and Mr. Vance, and their teams. It's just unbelievable what y'all will have accomplished in the 6 or 7 month period. Nothing like having a deadline to get the work done, is it? Yeah, so thank you very much. We look forward to hearing the final results that'll guide us for years to come, give us some focus. Thank you. Any further comments?
Thank you, Mayor. And if there are any other items or information or a feedback that council wants to provide to us as we're working through our draft, we'd love to hear that. So whether that's this evening or if you'd like to send an email to the task force, we want to make sure what we provide to you in January is what what the town needs, what you're interested in learning more about, and provide you the information to make informed decisions.
Thank you very much. Okay. We look forward to your final report, and then the next steps after that. So that brings us to the consent agenda. There's only 2 items on it. These are items that have been looked at by staff and council members up to this point and didn't feel like we needed more extended review or discussion. They're on here to be considered en masse and passed as a group unless there's some reason to take some of these items off of the consent agenda. If I hear no motion to remove any items, I'll ask for a motion to accept and adopt the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to adopt the consent agenda. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by nay? Hearing none, that passes unanimously, which brings us along to the public hearings. And we have a couple of those on the agenda. And let me read the introduction and the disclaimer as we usually do to make sure we're on the same starting point here, that tonight's public hearings are legislative hearings which do not require sworn testimony. However, persons interested in speaking, including the applicant, must sign up with the town clerk. Town staff will present a brief presentation followed by the applicant, and other persons who wish to comment on the item will be recognized to speak. Council requests groups of individuals with the same position to designate a representative to speak for the group. And we'll jump right into number 1, which is a Tier 1 conditional rezoning request related to Jurgen Park. And I'll just go ahead and spit right out here that we're probably going to ask for a continuance. We got our signs posted about the hearing. We got our letter sent out to the public, but a technical glitch kept us from getting it on the website in time. So we're not quite ready to have met all the legal requirements. So unless there's some reason not to, I'm going to ask for a motion to continue this hearing until the December 3rd meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Vance, a second by Ms. Behringer. If there's no discussion, I'll call for a voice vote on this. All in favor of continuing this until December 3rd, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by nay? Hearing none, that passes unanimously. Okay. Now we move to a real tongue twister here, item number 2. And thank goodness Mr. Hodges is stepping up to, and I think he's going to get Jeff Triesenberg on the line for us to participate remotely. And this has to do with the Wake County Multi-Jurisdictional Hazard Mitigation Plan. And I'm sure you're all familiar with that in detail. If you're not, you're about to learn all about it, because this is important stuff. I'm going to pass it over to Mr. Hodges and to Mr. Triesenberg, our planning director, to give us a little explanation on what this is and what Garner's role in this is.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor, members of council. Mr. Triesenberg is joining us remotely tonight. He's going to make this presentation. I'm going to assist him with moving the slides, so if you'll bear with us while we facilitate him being remote with us tonight. He's a little under the weather, and so we're going to facilitate through this, and then between us try to answer any questions that you have. So Jeff, can we check and make sure your audio's on?
Yes, can you hear me okay?
We can.
Wonderful. Good evening, Mayor, members of the council, and members of the public. Thank you for allowing me to participate this evening virtually. We got a little bug running around here at the house that trying to fend off. But I wanted to give you a overview of the process that the county has been graciously administering for us and has for the last good decade, and that is assembling and updating our jurisdiction-wide Wake County Hazard Mitigation Plan. I don't know how many of you may remember when we did this 5 years ago, but it is a 5-year process, and the current plan is set to expire on January 1st of 2025. We had hoped, the committee had hoped to be bringing this to the municipalities a little bit earlier, but some of the review at the higher levels has taken a little bit longer than anticipated. But each jurisdiction is being asked to endorse or approve the plan as we are a member jurisdiction. But just again to give you an overview, the purpose of the plan is to identify, assess, and mitigate hazard risk. So it's not that you're actually mitigating the hazards themselves, but you have a plan to try to reduce the risk to better protect people and property within Wake County. And it does include both natural and human-caused hazards. So the main 3 points there that the county asked me to convey is it is important that we keep a plan approved so that the town of Garner can remain eligible for pots of FEMA hazard mitigation dollars, which are listed there. So the planning process again began back in January. Actually, the organization for it started probably earlier in October and November of 2023. And you see here kind of the 10-step process that the committee goes through. It's kind of a county-wide technical review committee that's assembled and is led by the emergency management team at the county with assistance from consultants. And so you see there just kind of the process that we're at. We're currently at step 9, where we are looking to adopt the plan, and then we will again move into the next 5 years, which will be implementing, evaluating, and revising again for 2030. So the major plan components, again, you have mostly natural hazards, but it does also include technological and human-caused hazards. You see those there. And if you'll flip to the next slide, part of the process is to also assess your level of risk. The two that are highest for Wake County are extreme heat events, as well as severe winter storms. You will also see severe weather thunderstorms. All of the severe weather is actually grouped together. So the hail, lightning, and winds actually put that combined hazard into what they call a moderate category. The plan does require that we have actions in place in the plan to address anything that is considered either high risk or moderate risk. The only things that do not have to be addressed are those that are low, which for us is earthquakes and landslides. And so there again, you see the ultimate results. So out of however many those are, there's only 2 that we didn't have to address. In addition to assessing our risk of the various hazards, we also have to do kind of an internal self-assessment largely, and then there is some professional assessment as well based on the programs and policies that each jurisdiction has in place. The goal is always to be at least a moderate, if not a high, and our capability assessment results, pretty much everybody was the same as they were 5 years ago. However, most jurisdictions, including Garner, did see a slight increase in their score over the last 5 years due to their progress on some of these action items since the last plan was produced. It is not a 100-point scale or anything like that. It's just an overall total number score that I understand they implement. I'm not sure what the highest possible score is, but Garner is right there kind of in the middle of the pack with the rest of the communities here in Wake County. So the plan structure itself, again, you had a link to the entire document, draft document, which is hosted on Wake County's website. It is quite voluminous and large, but the plan does, of course, document the process that it went to, gives a demographic profile, but largely delves into the next kind of 4 sections with that risk assessment, capabilities, the mitigation strategies, and particularly the action plans. So yeah, in those sections, you kind of have a further breakdown here of how the plan is organized. And I'll just have John kind of pause on each of these slides for a moment so that everybody can kind of see some of the overviews of the things that are covered. Again, 4 through 7 are probably the most important. And then, of course, the committee itself is focused on maintaining the plan and working with FEMA, and then the plan adoption, of course, every 5 years as well. So there's also a bunch of supporting information that probably takes up a good third to half of the plan, I would say, and that has the detailed risk assessment for each individual community and each community's mitigation plans, as well as the appendices, which cover all of the tools, alternatives, and other documentation and references that go into putting this plan together. In terms of the implementation and maintenance, the county, again, is leading this process. So they are doing, I believe, annual reports that kind of get the committee together on an annual basis to report on what they have been doing in terms of their action items. Again, the focus is on trying to implement some new things that will expand and increase the county's ability to mitigate the risks of these natural and man-made hazards. They do also monitor for funding opportunities, ensuring public involvement. Since this was a county-led process, they have had their own outreach process with their own public hearings, community-wide, and there has been a citizen, I think, advisory committee as well that I believe Mr. Boyland was one of our representatives from the Planning Commission that sat in on those meetings and participated as well. We are always encouraged to be integrating this plan with our other efforts. And again, the intent as of right now, with the way that FEMA is structured, is that this plan process will continue every 5 years per the federal regulations, with our next update anticipated in 2020. So our next steps tonight, we were encouraged to follow kind of our typical process at each local jurisdiction. So we are asking tonight if you are comfortable to please refer this to the Planning Commission just for a recommendation on plan adoption. And then it would come back to the Town Council for a decision to adopt on December 17th. Again, the goal is to have all of the municipalities on board with a resolution of approval by the end of the year, so that in the event there were to be some kind of natural disaster in the first part of 2025, we would have all of our paperwork in place so that we would be eligible for those pots of funding. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions that I can possibly answer for you. Again, Mr. Bowie in our department was our representative, and there were other departments brought in from our TRC here locally at different points to provide input and information into the plan process. So we have the full draft now available.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Triesenberg. Very helpful. As you say, our action requested today is to consider referring this to the Planning Commission for further review, advice, and counsel, and then it would come back to this council December 17th. So having said that, I'll ask our council members here if there's any questions for Mr. Triesenberg or Mr. Hodges.
None.
Any questions, Ms. Behringer, Mr. Dellinger, Mr. Vance?
No questions.
Okay. Hearing no questions, you must have done a pretty thorough job there, Mr. Triesenberg. Thanks for getting us into that. That being the case, do we have any individuals who have signed up to speak on this?
No one has signed up to speak.
Okay. Well, then I probably will move along to ask, is there a motion to refer this plan to the Planning Commission?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Matthews, second by Ms. Behringer to refer this to the Planning Commission. I'll ask the council members, all in favor of doing that, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed by nay. Hearing none, that passes unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Hodges and Mr. Triesenberg. And now we move along to new and old business. And the first item has to do with Parks and Recreation and Cultural Resources. Like all great documents, this one has to be amended, our rules and regulations there. particularly related to gifts and donations, and even more specifically, sponsorships, I think, is something we want to review. What our rules say, and how does that fit with what we really need to get done? So with that, I'll turn it over to our Director of Parks and Recreation, Maria Munoz Blanco.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm like Jeff, a little bit under the weather, but hopefully we can get through 5 slides without any major need to leave the room. So we're bringing to you tonight 3 of our operational policies that needed to be updated, revised, and this is work that we have been doing as we prepare to submit for the reaccreditation process for our department. Again, we have 3 policies that we want you to consider. Policy 115, gifts and donations, 120, sponsorships, and 110, which is our revenue policy. The revenue one really addresses revenue that it's earned through our fee-for-services activities, like classes and whatnot. The staff has reviewed these. We worked as a team. We also presented our recommendations to the Recreation and Cultural Resources Advisory Committee. They have reviewed them. They helped us amend them, and they have voted to recommend the updates to you, our town council. Redlined copies were included in the agenda packet, and they're very detailed, so I don't know that you wanted me to go through every single line, but I'm happy to do that. But I thought we would just highlight key changes and again, answer any questions that you may have about specific changes. So I'll start with the one about gifts and donations. This one addresses how our department handles charitable donations. We wanted to clarify that our department is able to accept donations both for park amenities, which we have been doing for quite a while, benches, stuff like that, as well as for program support. For park amenities, one of the changes that we wanted to specify is that they be of commercial grade. Keep in mind that amenities in parks are subject to weather as well as heavy use. So we'll make sure for safety purposes and for longevity that they are of commercial grade, not something that you would buy at the retail level. We also added a section specifically to address donations of memorials, to make sure that in the event of a donation regarding a memorial, that we consider state law as it relates to monuments, that we take that into consideration, that we bring that to the appropriate review of our legal department, as well as acceptance by the town council. We also added a section to formalize how the advisory committee participates in our review of grants and donations. This is something that we currently do. It's our practice, so we just wanted to, again, align our policy with the town code. And then we added a section to provide criteria for potential donation of gifts of land or real estate property. This is something that was not in the policy. It is addressed in our comp plan. So again, we wanted to make sure that we're aligning our documents for consistency. And last but not least, the last 2 bullet points, this is thanks to the advice of our legal department. We added 2 sections for communications, government speech, and appeals process. And the text that we used in those sections is the same text that was approved by the town council for the special events policy. And this is something that council acted on in February of 2021. So we copied that text and made it part of these policies, again, for consistency. The sponsorship policy is slightly different than the gifts and donations because there is a marketing aspect to how sponsorships are processed. They're not purely charitable donations. We did add a section here to expressly authorize our department to do this. Again, we have been doing this for quite a while, and there is a process that we follow. And the one thing that we have added, that we added a couple of years ago, is to publish a sponsorship guide so we can be very transparent in what it takes to become a partner sponsor of our programming. We added 3 types of products that we did not think were necessarily suitable or aligned well with the mission of our department in terms of sponsorships that we would probably not want to pursue. That would be the use of CBD products, gambling products or activities, and sponsorships that obviously violate federal, state, or local laws or policies. We also added a section to clarify the types of benefits that we would provide to a sponsor partner. And again, consistent with current practice, we don't necessarily do a call to action on our social media, but we'll help promote thank them on our Facebook page. Typically, they could have a table or a tent in one of our events, so we negotiate those as part of the sponsorship level. And similar to the earlier policy, we also added sections on communications and an appeal of denial process. And then this one's a very short change. This is the revenue policy. This change was actually briefed to the town council sometime in 2022 as part of the fee schedule changes for fiscal year 2023. So it's something that has been our practice since then. We just want, again, to match the policy to the current town fee schedule. And it's simply, prior to this, we actually had 2 categories for young people cost recovery. One was kids under 12, one was 13 to 18. We decided all youth under 18, we would aim for cost recovery of 60%. And then we settled on a consistent differential for resident and non-resident fee at 40%. Before that, it was sort of all over the place. So again, trying to be transparent in the way we do our business. And those are the changes that we are recommending to you. If you have any questions, any concerns, happy to try to answer them tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Munoz. I know that a lot of thought and work have gone into this. I believe this has been reviewed right on up the line through our town manager and our town attorney. These are changes that we need to make to live in the modern world and adjust our rules to what's really going on, what we want to accomplish. That being said, we'll ask council members if there are questions or comments on this. I'll start with Mr. Vance.
I have no questions.
Okay. Mr. Dellinger?
Yeah, just a quick question on the fee change. And the original is 85%. Was it just generally found that that's not attainable?
We actually found that it's already very difficult to do programs for teens, and if we make them more expensive, so we try to, again, make them more affordable and hopefully try to make that more enticing to young people to come and hang out with us.
All right, thank you.
You good? Ms. Behringer? No questions. Mr. Matthews, questions? Okay, well, thank you. And we don't, this is not a public hearing. The question before us tonight to the council is for us to actually approve these recommended changes to the policy 115, 120, and 110. And before we call for motion, just want to ask one more time if there's any questions or comments. That being the case, then I will ask for a motion to approve the recommended changes.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. If no further discussion, I'll call for a voice vote on this. All in favor of approving these recommended changes, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by nay? Hearing none, that passes unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Excellent. And now for another big presentation tonight that we're all looking forward to. It's an Economic Development Quarterly Update. Our presenter is Nate Groover, the Economic Development Director, and we're very interested to see what you can tell us tonight. Nate, let us have it.
All right. Thank you, Mayor and Council. Appreciate the opportunity tonight to provide a recap of the last quarter's work in the Economic Development Department. So once again, I always like to start off with our framework, just to remind everyone of our focus. So the focus being business recruitment and retention, site and product development, entrepreneurship and small business, and community promotion and marketing. We'll start off tonight with a downtown update. So you can see here the Downtown Impact Report that was just published, just created about a week ago. So this highlights some of the events that we had for the year. So event season for Main Street is over, but we had 10 successful events through the year. Faced some headwinds with road construction and weather, some of those events, but we were happy with the effort and the results from the events this year. So you can see the stats are listed there. Peak business hours from 4 to 9 p.m. and some other additional stats. One stat that we were pleasantly surprised with was the participation in the social district. So we were pleased to see that. So want to give credit to our former Downtown Economic Development Administrator, Shayla Douglas. She prepared this right before she moved on. We're proud that she's advancing in the career field of economic development, and proud of her new opportunity that she's moved on to. So with Shayla moving on, we do have a recruitment opportunity. So we have been kind of fine-tuning the process here and looked at kind of all the qualities and skills that go into this position. So specifically for the Downtown and Economic Development Administrator, of course, one of the main things is serving as the liaison to the Downtown Garner Association and being sure to keep the stakeholders of downtown priority. Also administers the Main Street program, plans and executes the downtown marketing and special events, and of course, supports small business and entrepreneurship with Launch Garner. So the recruitment process has started. The position has been posted. We're currently receiving applicants, very pleased with the strong initial interest in the position, and the position is open until December 1st. One exciting event, Mayor, that I know you about, we've communicated with this, is the Garner Holiday Village. So we worked with the Garner Chamber of Commerce to facilitate a new initiative for the holiday season. We viewed it as a good marketing opportunity for downtown Garner. And Mayor, we know that you're going to be at the ribbon cutting with a certain VIP on Friday, December 13th, who I think is coming from the North Pole to help you cut the ribbon for the Holiday Village. So we're excited about that. Again, in downtown, the Metro 201 project, working with LMG on their final building layout. We continue to have regularly scheduled meetings with them to get this project up and out of the ground. So also working on recruiting potential food and beverage users to that space, because we know that is a deficiency in downtown, and trying to create some more dining options for everyone. And we still expect this project to break ground next year. So moving on to site and product development. I know everyone's familiar with this, the Duke Health planned medical office building over off Timber. The project has been on hold while Duke reevaluates their service delivery model. They did apply for a certificate of need for a 12-bed hospital back in September, and we are waiting on the outcome from the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services to determine their final site plan. Again, moving on to Gateway 540, I know another area that y'all are very familiar with. So we continue to work with their development team to get the site ready, and they're providing timeline so that we can be proactive about working with the real estate community to get this site occupied by a user. So we're proactively marketing it with our state, regional, and county partners. And in future updates, I'll be sure to report on the progress of requests for sites where this site was submitted, now that we have a site to submit when we receive those. The VA clinic, I know some of us have had a chance to tour that, so the construction is nearing substantial completion, expected to open in spring of next year. Again, the stats on this are 240,000 square feet, and my favorite stat is 600 total jobs with 370 new to the area. So very, very appreciative of that. And we continue to work with the VA on transportation and opening logistics to get this facility up and running. So moving on to entrepreneurship and small business. So our Launch Garner program, the application period just closed. We did receive 13 total applicants. Again, we shifted the cycle this year to kind of help capture more applicants. So we're doing a spring cohort instead of a fall. So the classes will start in January of 2025 next year. In person here at the town, we did receive feedback from prior students that really kind of longed to have the in-person communication and camaraderie with their classmates. So we shifted from a virtual system of delivery to in-person. So we're hoping to see some good results with that. And we'll have a graduation in March of 2025, which everyone will be invited to. Moving on to community promotion and marketing. So we're proud, and special thanks to Rick and his team. We did a revamped economic development page on the town's website. So we did this to update the new department framework. Of course, we have our links to Downtown Garner Association and the Choose Garner site, which we're still using as an external tool for site selection consultants and businesses interested in the area. Another community event that some of us took place in a couple weeks ago. It was an exciting event, the Urban Plan for Public Officials. I know Mayor and Mr. Vance, we were there along with planning staff and Manager Hodges and Manager Miller. It was a fun day. It was intense at times. I think we all learned a couple things. But for those of you that didn't have the ability to attend, basically it was the development process from the view of the developer. So it was a day-long exercise to help public officials and elected officials understand all that goes into putting a private development project together. So we had many different roles within our teams. But the end goal was basically to come up with a good plan that recognized community input and the developer's requirements to provide returns both to their investors and the town. And while our team was not the winning team, I have to congratulate John Hodges and Jeff Triesenberg for their team winning that. It was a good fun day of learning all about the development process. Moving on to business recruitment and retention. So our stats for Q1, I know it's a little weird when the holiday wreaths go up and we're still talking about Q1, but the stats for Q1, we received 29 requests for information totaling about 6,000 jobs and almost about $3 billion in total investment. And then one other stat I provided here is I just want to keep track of the average job count per project of these RFIs is just under 200. So on the end of our local recruitment activity, held over 40 meetings, and you can see the list there. Basically everybody in the commercial real estate space that's interested in Garner or needs to be interested in Garner, making sure that we're being proactive with our approach there. Want to be sure to thank our economic development partners. I always need to say economic development is truly a team sport, so definitely want to thank the Garner Economic Development Corporation. I know our chairman, Mr. Swain, was here earlier for the Affordable Housing Task Force session. Want to thank our volunteers with Downtown Garner Association, and of course our friends and partners over at the Garner Chamber. So moving on to other initiatives. So the former bank building over at 120 Avisboro Road, the Economic Development Department was asked to evaluate this facility for potential future use, just to see what the best thing to do with it was. So we worked with the town attorney and assistant town attorney to determine legal options for reuse or disposal. And we estimated that the renovation costs were going to be north of about $400,000 to provide all the renovations with the needed mechanical, HVAC repairs, roof, to see if that building could be repurposed for another user. So we looked at that and also looked to see what control any future uses of the land could provide to the town. So after doing all that, our recommendation was to demolish the building for future preservation for the town hall campus. Just seeing that having this building on the outer edge of town campus, demoing that, probably the next best thing for us as the town continues to grow and just being able to have more control of that corner. So with that being said, I'm recommending and seeking guidance from the council on next steps for that. And that is all I have. Thank you very much. I'm happy to answer any questions.
That's a lot of information. Thank you very much.
I tried to go quick.
Okay. And are you looking for some feedback this evening on the Avisboro Road property there?
Yes, sir. Feedback and guidance.
Yeah, a lot of thought has gone into that. I don't know how much time or information council's had to look at it. I've seen some, but let's entertain some questions for Nate on that issue or others. Let's start with Mr. Vance.
Okay, $400,000+ to
Yes, sir.
renovate. Do we know the cost of the building? Do you have any idea?
The purchase cost to the town, Mr. Hodges,
was around $675,000.
Okay, all right. All right, and the recommendation is the recommendation for demolishing is coming after a thorough analysis of the cost benefit.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And the unique nature of the building, with it being a former bank building, trying to repurpose that for another user while also trying to maintain control of the use there.
So based upon demolishing, you see a value in just redeveloping that area.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I have no further questions.
Okay, Mr. Dellinger?
You know, I have a lot of more questions, but I think it's going to take some more information. Sort of what efforts were made as far as looking at the market and what price it could fetch on the market if we were put it up for sale or put it up for lease and they upfit. What was sort of the feedback? Like, I've not seen that data and information.
Right.
I'm kind of curious and would like to see that before sort of, giving a thumbs up for demolition.
Right, understand.
But what level of analysis was done as far as the market use, and then it's old and all that kind of stuff. But
Right, yeah, just a market analysis of taking in the current age of the building, obviously, its current condition, and then looking at the different industry uses in the region where that would be appropriate for. So obviously, you can see in the papers, the office market is still very soft and has not rebounded. So kind of just taking all of those factors into play, that's how we came up with the recommendation that it would be best served to use this area for future development for the town as needed.
Yeah, I'd like to have a little more conversation at some point, because if we're going to demolish it and it's vacant land, or is it going to be parking? We're not going to build anything there in the near future. There may be some opportunities as the town to let someone come in and renovate it and use it as a small business space. You see people using odd buildings that, banks for restaurants, banks for coffee shops, I don't know. And maybe it's part of that small business effort to give a space, not give a space, but low lease, I don't know. To just demolish it with the only plan being now we have this empty piece of land that we don't have plans for, having a little trouble digesting that.
Yes,
So-
again, we haven't had a huge amount of information or discussion, so this is kind of the first blush of things. So good questions, good observations. Ms. Behringer, questions, observations?
Yes, I had an inquiry from the owner of Fifth Avenue Pharmacy about the possibility of leasing that building for his pharmacy because of the drive-through. Has he contacted town? And what was the
Yes, ma'am.
result
Yeah,
of that?
yeah, we met with him and are going to continue to meet with him, trying to help him find a solution.
Okay.
So, Ms. Behringer, one thing I will add is that we don't have access to this property on the north end. So there is, the former bank operation had a use agreement with a neighboring property owner. So currently, we would not be able to have a tenant who could access the property and circulate through the property. So that's one limitation for that specific user especially, but then for other users as well. So I think after meeting with that particular business owner, we're helping him in other ways, but it wouldn't necessarily be with this property.
Thank you.
I have a question. So did that
Let
access terminate?
me catch, Mr. Matthews, we'll come back around. Let me catch Mr. Matthews. Questions, observations?
A couple of things. I agree with Mr. Dillinger. We need to get some feedback on potentials, options here, other than just level of the building. What is the tax value on that property?
I would need to pull that up. I don't have that on the top of my head, but I'll get that for you.
Yeah, I'd like to look into all this a little bit further, because we've got a tremendous investment in it, and just to make a level parking lot, that's concerning, and that's all I got.
Yeah. And Mayor and members of council, if I may add some additional context to the information that's been provided this evening. The information that Mr. Gruber has provided really looked at the current site with some of the restrictions that Mr. Hodges has talked about as far as access, as well as the existing building itself, the age of the building, the unique style of the building, the cost for the upgrades that would be required to the building to bring it up to current standards and replacement of systems. And so When we looked at all those things taken into account, and when we look at the longer term needs of the town in terms of our overall campus, our town hall campus, and our expansion and need for potential office space and working space for staff, that's why the recommendations coming forth to council for consideration to remove the structure that's there now, because the way it stands now is not very attractive in its current form. But to remove that structure, to keep it as open space, so not as a parking lot, but as open space until the time that the town has done the appropriate planning and decides that expansion needs to happen. I actually think that corner would be a great space for an interim use, for a great piece of public art that we could put there. In the interim, while we're doing the planning and work regarding expansion of the campus and our planning to do that. But as the information that's shared this evening, but also in the memo of information that was shared with council, really the structure itself, the age, and some of the issues with access to the property make it very limited in being able to use the existing structure as is without having to put a lot of dollars into it. So we can certainly provide some more data information if council will be specific on the additional data information that you'd like to look at and consider further. But I wanted to give you a little bit of a context around our conversations and thinkings based on the recommendation that was brought forth this evening.
Yes, thank you very much. There's a lot of moving parts here. Probably not going to ask for a decision tonight, but just a good place to start the dialogue and a place to do a little deeper dive and learn what we can and what options are. Let's wait a week or two before we blow it up, because it's hard to put it back. But then it might be that we blow it up, but let's wait and see just a little bit. That being said,
Question in reference to the timeline. Are we looking at a timeline to get this done, or?
Not yet. No, tonight was just the first step.
Okay, that's it.
Yeah, I think just a little more time. I mean, the market is clever when it comes to real estate and looking at something differently, creating an opportunity for themselves, and there's a significant investment the town has in the property, and any future expansion is probably 10 years off. You could have a 5, 6, 10-year lease in that time and generate a significant amount of revenue potentially.
Yes.
So just more time, I think, would be helpful.
good. Yeah, yes, sir.
I got a couple other questions,
Yes, sir.
not regarding the bank building.
Yes, sir.
On the Duke property, they had 3 locations, 2 other places. They stopped everything
Yes, sir.
temporarily. Have they started back on this property yet? I stopped by and peeked over at it the other day. Someone said they're working out there again. I couldn't tell. Any feedback on that?
Right, groundwork, yes, sir.
They are working out there now. So does that mean they're going to start building, or what's?
That's what we hope for.
Okay. The other thing,
Mr. Matthews, if I could add to that, they are continuing to do some site work, but they are not going to move forward with going vertical on the original building until they find out the results of the certificate of need for the mini hospital that they've since applied for. So once they learn in the January, February timeframe whether or not their certificate of need was approved, then they're going to revisit whether or not they want to move forward with the current program. So while they are on site doing some work, it is not going to be something that you're going to see a building start going vertical on right away.
so initially, but it was not designed for a hospital, but more.
It was a medical office building,
Right.
yes, sir.
So now they're considering making a hospital out of it, is what we're saying here. I just want to
Well,
point of
they've
clarification.
applied for a certificate of need, which is what is required to be able to do a hospital.
Right.
It's a small, they call it a mini hospital. It's a 12-bed operation. They applied for that back in the September timeframe. And if they are successful in receiving that from the state, then they're going to look at whether or not they redo the campus design here for that hospital, and whether or not to move forward with the medical office building.
Gotcha. The only other thing I had, you're talking about the companies that request information, what have you, you had some numbers on that, and we send these things out. Once we send them out, what happens to us at that time? Do we wait on them, or do we follow up with these different companies, or how does that work? I'm just curious how that works.
Yes, sir. So in the process of business recruitment, Usually it starts at the state and then goes down to the county. The county sends out those requests to all the municipalities. And then what they're asking for is the real estate. So if we have the real estate that they're looking for, we submit it. If we don't, we let them know that we can't submit. If we do submit it, it is wait and see. So of course, I have great relationships with the project managers at Wake County. So if I don't hear anything in a week or two, call them up. Hey, is this project still active? Because previously, when I worked at the state, a lot of those times when the sites are submitted to the company will come back and say, okay, of the 50 you submitted, here's the 4 that we would actually like to visit. And then at that time is usually when the municipalities that submitted that aren't going to receive a site visit will find out, hey, the company's moved along to another site. We're usually not provided the reasoning behind that, other than they just found a site somewhere else that they liked better. But I continue to meet with our partners at Wake County and the Economic Development Partnership when I've submitted for projects that I'm just curious about, hey, where did it go? Did it land anywhere? And a lot of the times, of course, Wake County and our partners will provide the information they can. If it's an active project that's still very confidential, they'll just say, yeah, they've just moved on to another location. And we usually don't know about that until we see it in the newspaper.
Okay.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
I just have one other question. What was the original intended use for the Duke property? Was it a hospital or was it office buildings?
My understanding is medical office building, so not a hospital, but medical office.
In your report, I saw the Northeast Gateway study, and can you give us an update as where we are on that in that process?
Yes, sir. So we have a full board meeting for the Garner Economic Development Corporation week after Thanksgiving. So we are continuing to work with the development partners around potential renderings for that site and what that could look like to start the conversation with town staff.
Can you reorient us through that, where that property is located, just for those?
Yes, sir. Yes. So the Northeast Gateway is the property on Jones Sausage Road, directly across from Amazon and directly north of the Beacon Commerce Park. So that area around Tharrington Road and Martin Branch Road, running right up against Interstate 40.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. Okay, a lot going on. Thank
Yes,
you
sir.
for the update.
Thank you.
Thanks for not forcing a decision tonight on the other property on Evansboro Road. A lot of factors to be considered. Appreciate all the work and thought that's gone into it. And I especially appreciate the attention being paid to historic downtown Garner. We're at a crossroads there, change in our leadership and our staffing. The Downtown Garner Association has done a tremendous job with their volunteers and their board, in my opinion, reaching out, getting business owners, property owners, residents involved. I'm just eager to see that we keep our momentum. Thank goodness we have one of our most dedicated downtown advocates, Ms. Behringer, who's been working on that for 3 decades plus. I think it's amazing what you can do with only 30 years and a little bit of money. Right. But thank you for your dedicated attention to that. It might take another 30 before it's like we want it.
Well, I have to retire sometime.
Well, just make sure you're finished with this before you do. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Gruber. Okay, and with that, we'll move right along to committee reports. Let's see which council members want to report from their particular committee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Veterans Day we had last week, it was remarkable. We had a fabulous turnout. I think it's one of the biggest crowds we had. Of course, the Garner Magnet High School Band performed excellent. Our police and fire honor guard, as usual, were looking good and did great. And our speaker was very good. He was an old Vietnam vet. I think he had a chance to get a lot out of his system he'd been holding on to a long time. So, but he was a good speaker. And I appreciate all the council and all our department heads that were there, our attorney, manager, assistant manager. And but we did have a good turnout. I appreciate Kayla. She was my right arm, left arm, and putting all this thing together. And but we just got something to build on for next year, and I appreciate your kind words when you were up there. Other item coming up on December 14th, we will have the Gold Star ceremony out at the Lake Benson Park, and that's where we got a tree out there, and we'll put gold stars on there. Family members will, of people that have passed away in wartime, and we've got a permanent one out there right now, but it's not quite big enough. We might have to rent that tree one more time for this particular ceremony, but that's always a big event, and that's December the 14th, so you check your calendar on that. Love to have everybody out. And but we've got a good, strong Veterans Committee, good worker bees, and it makes all the difference in the world, and appreciate the staff and the board's support on what we do out there. And that's all I got, sir.
Well, you didn't mention the outstanding master of ceremonies that we had there. That was unbelievable. That this guy, oh, it was him. It was him. Wow, great job. On
Thanks, sir.
On that field.
Just
Really
leave that
was
short,
good.
sorry.
One of the members of the Color Guard, the Fire and Police, he told me that's one of his 2 favorite days of the year. He just looks forward to that all year to be able to make that presentation. And I told him how much it meant to all the veterans, all the people there, to see those guys, these younger guys, supporting this and carrying on the tradition. So
And we had one World War II veteran, Mr. Warren Shaw. He was 98 years old and still working. So at Garner Area Ministries, he works in the food pantry. I think he's doing Meals on Wheels. Korean War vet, and not many of those left. And a lot of Vietnam vets and Afghan, Iraq, and all those battles over there. So good representation, and it was a good day.
And they appreciate it very much. Committee reports, Ms. Behringer.
Yes, the Public Arts Committee, we are moving along. We have received a proposal for sculpture at the property corner of Avery Street and Garner Road. It was surprisingly reasonable, and so the more information will be coming forward. And we are also getting ready to put a shroud, a cover, on the utility cabinet box, I'm not sure what to call it, at the entrance to Garner Rec Park. So you're going to see more and more color and things that make you smile in the different locations of the downtown area.
Well, that's what we need. More reason to smile. Thank you. Stay the course. Mr. Dellinger.
No reports.
Okay. Yes, I'd like to say that for the Human Resource Committee, we'll conduct interviews this week to fill current and future openings.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. So that's the committee reports. Let's go to manager reports.
Yes, Mayor, we have the monthly Talk of the Town report for you, and I'll ask Mr. Hodges to review the highlights. Mr. Hodges?
All right, thank you, Ms. Miller. Council members, one of the highlights we wanted to point out to you tonight on Talk of the Town is our ETJ expansion update. The Wake County Planning Board's Land Use Committee, which is a subcommittee of their full planning board, did have this on their agenda on November 6th. They've asked for some additional information. So Mr. Triesenberg and staff will be at their meeting on December 4th to present some additional information. We were hoping that this process would move along and we would have a recommendation from the Planning Commission in early 2025, but they have asked for some additional information. Once they're comfortable with that information, it will be looking for a recommendation from them back to the full Planning Commission. Once the Planning Commission has time to deliberate on it, they'll make a recommendation to the county commissioners. So the process has begun. It is moving forward. We will keep you updated with any additional developments that go on with that process. But thank you to staff for keeping that important project moving forward. There is a link in the Talk of the Town report to the page on the Wake County website for our ETJ request. So you know we have our local page on our website, but if you'd like to see the Wake County information, your link is in your report. As a reminder to council and the public, our town hall facilities and all town facilities will be closed on Thursday, November 28th and Friday, November 29th in observance of Thanksgiving holiday. We do have our downtown holiday events coming up. The block party is on Saturday the 7th from 2 to 4 at Garner Rec Center. The Optimus Christmas Parade will follow at 4:30, and the town's tree lighting will be after the parade, and all that is held in the Garner and downtown Garner area. Mr. Groover has already talked to you about the new Garner Holiday Village that we are working with the chamber to facilitate. So you've had that update already. Wanted to give kudos to the GPAC for winning one of the Garner Chamber's Summit Awards for Creativity and Innovation in recognition of their efforts to make the arts more accessible to people with disabilities. So that is a great accomplishment. Congratulations to the team, and we'll ask Maria, congratulate her, and ask her to pass that back along to the rest of the team. Just a reminder that our loose leaf collection did begin at the beginning of November and continues through the month of February. Another service that our citizens enjoy very much. And then lastly, just to let council know that staff has started to work on the 2026 FY26 budget. And so we will kick that off internally on December 2nd and start the process working through the budget so that you have a recommendation for consideration in early 2025. If there's any questions about those updates, I'll be happy to answer them. You also have your Garner Info monthly analytics on the report. If you've got any questions about those, we'll be happy to answer those as well.
Quick question, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Hodges, I know it's a little bit far out, but never is. We always have our annual work retreat for a couple of days. Typically it's been, I think, in about the March time frame, somewhere in that. We're going to be looking at requests or things we'd like to see or discuss at that anytime soon, or we might get closer.
Certainly. Typically, we have our first retreat of the year in the February timeframe, and that's when we provide basic budget information to council, kind of where we are with the budget. Also, that's an opportunity to discuss any budget priorities or initiative that council would like to see us to continue to work on. And certainly for that meeting, we can poll the rest of council to see if there's other topics and things that you'd like added to the agenda so that we can prepare appropriately for that.
That's always a good meeting and good time to put things out to think about. With the growth we're seeing this year, and who knows what next year is going to bring. It's going to be exciting times, and I kind of feel it in the air, so we better be prepared and get a handle on it.
Yep, be getting our thoughts together for that February planning session retreat. That's a big deal. Thank you, Mr. Hodges. Any other questions? Okay.
Just a real quick reminder that our fall s'more social with the town staff is tomorrow at Lake Benson. It'll be an event from 11 to 3 p.m. It'll be at Shelter 1. We're hoping the weather will hold for us, but we've got a nice big shelter to be under. This year, it's going to be an expanded event where we'll actually have lunch. We'll have some hot dogs and chips for people to have, as well as an opportunity to roast some s'mores. So it's always a fun event to come out and see each other and get to connect with staff. And so I just want to remind council of that opportunity, and we'd love to see you there.
Do we still have the school planning for tomorrow coming here for?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, we do. We still have the elementary school coming in tomorrow, and we'll be able to spend some time with them in the morning to talk about local government.
Excellent, a lot going on. Let's see, and that brings us to attorney reports.
Just briefly, I just wanted to let Mayor and council members know that we just completed 4 sessions of training for town staff on the Legislative Commission on Government Operations and First Amendment auditors, and the mayor was able to join us yesterday at our last session. I did want to publicly thank our fall intern, Ludney John Batiste, who prepared and presented all 4 sessions for us. So she, unfortunately, her internship will be ending tomorrow, but we were happy to have her for this fall semester and appreciate council's support of having a paid legal intern year-round now.
Yes, that was a very informative session, well attended, and everybody paid attention and learned a lot. So I certainly did. Thank you for putting that on. Okay, and I believe that brings us back to council reports from other than committees. Let's start with Mr. Vance. Any reports?
Yes, I'd just like to update everyone that the NCDOT Division 5 engineer Brandon Jones, who many of us are familiar with, he'll be retiring this year. And as you well know, that he's been engaged with us on a number of projects, and his successor has yet to be identified as of yet. That's one. Just want to bring that one point up. And also, last week had the opportunity to be a part of the Garner Educational Foundation. They conducted their annual Stars on the Stage program at the Garner Magna High School in the auditorium. It was a very good event. All 13 Garner schools participated and performed various songs and dances. It was a great time, great family event, and the auditorium was filled to the rafters. People were even in the halls. It was just a great time had by all. And that's all I have as a report this week.
Thank you, Mr. Dellinger.
No reports.
Okay, Ms. Behringer.
Yes, sir. I have a couple of things. Some people on Penny Street over in North Garner have complained to me about a golf cart riding up and down the street. with no tags on it, a dog along beside it, not restrained, and children kind of hanging off the golf course. So what is our recourse to deal with that? I think a lot of people don't realize that Penny Street is a public street. It's not a private street. It's a dead-end street, but it's public. And it's a little scary to see that golf course taken off with the children on it.
Ms. Behringer, we'll make sure that the police department's aware and they can monitor the area.
Okay. And the next thing I want to report is that over the past few months, I've had 2 incidents where I've been contacted by students. One was a senior at NC State and asked to come and interview me about my position on the council and to ask questions about the job and what it involves. And that was about 2 months ago. And then most recently, about 10 days ago, I got an email from a young lady who was a senior in high school in Angers, France. And she has met my granddaughter some time ago and got my information from me. And we had a video conference Saturday for 30 minutes to talk about women in politics and local government. And so I was very, very glad to see the interest on both parts of these young people.
Good, very inspirational. You were glad to help, I'm sure. Mr. Matthews, any other report?
Just a couple things. I had the honor of cleaning out my attic this week and finding things up there. I'm not sure what all I have found, but been making many trips to the Garner Area Ministries and what have you. But they give me a good tour of that place today. And I said I hadn't been all back in there. And I said, she showed me they got wheelchairs, crutches, all this stuff. She said that costs a little or nothing. And so I put it on my Facebook. If you need these things, go up there. They've got all this stuff. And there's a tour, there's everything in there. They've got the food pantry. And then all the proceeds go to help them with people with financial issues. They sit down with them. It's a total turnkey job. And I was very impressed. I asked her, I said, you may want to come up one evening, depending on our schedule, and give us a few minutes presentation what all you guys really do. And I said, contact our manager, and you guys work that out. And but it was very interesting. And then later on, he carried me over to the Community of Hope, giving out some other things, and running Miss Amy White over there, and she gave me a tour. And it's just amazing. The lady presented earlier tonight about what's good. She mentioned both of those places, and it's just fabulous to live in a town that we've got those kind of services to help everybody out. And it was a pleasure just to spend some time with those folks today. So they do a great job, and most of them are volunteers. So just a little for what it's worth.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you. It's inspirational to see all those folks working together, volunteer-driven, grassroots organizations.
Absolutely.
Very great. And I believe that will bring us back to our town attorney. I believe we need to have a closed session this evening. And is there a council member who wants to make a motion related to that?
Yes. In pursuant of General Statute, Section 143-318.11A4, to discuss matters relating to the location or expansion of business and economic development incentives, and A6 to consider the performing goals of an individual employee. So motion.
Okay, there's a motion, and did I hear a second?
Second.
Second. There's a motion and a second to move to a closed session. I'll ask all in favor of moving to a closed session signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by nay? Passes unanimously. We will move to a closed session. Thank you for coming. Stick around for a couple hours. We'll be back in here for about 2 minutes to wrap it up. And in the meantime, we'll be working for you. Thanks very much for attending this evening. back on the air. So as we return to an open session from our closed session, I think I will, as we reconvene, I'll ask our attorney to give us a little report of what we did in the closed session.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council met in closed session to discuss economic development and the performance goals of an individual employee. No votes or official action was taken during the closed session.
Okay, thank you very much. And if there's no further comments or questions or no further business, I will accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion by Mr. Matthews and a second by Ms. Behringer that we adjourn. All in favor of adjournment, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed by nay. Hearing none, it's unanimous. We stand adjourned.
Right.